Hi everybody, I'm Michelle Stevens. I am the Director of Spiritual Life here at Lake Country Christian School. Today we're going to talk about biblical worldview and what does that mean here at Lake Country. For most of you, it may sound familiar, but for those of you that are new, we want to incorporate this into your training so that we have a common language. And that's what it is. We call it Created, Broken, Redeemed, Restored. And for short, it's CBRR. What we do is we infuse that biblical worldview into everything we do here, whether it's in our classrooms, whether it's in our athletics or fine arts, or any activity we do across the board. We do this in our curriculum, and we want to go ahead and give this to you in a little bit more fun way. So watch this.
Hi everybody, I'm Sabrina Jones. I'm the elementary and intermediate chapel teacher, and I help coordinate some of the spiritual activities in the elementary and intermediate school. One way to explain created, broken, redeemed, restored is this way. Created on purpose, for purpose, broken by sin, redeemed by Jesus, restored one day.
So let's start with created. Anytime we speak about anything in life, and if you really want to know how something is to function, we always go back to the original source, which for us is in Genesis. As we see here, we are created in the image and likeness of God, and we can explain almost anything based upon this premise here in Genesis 1. So when we start with anything, whether it's in the classroom or when we're doing a fine arts production, we want to talk about how something is created. Always start from the first mention. So we were all born into brokenness, and no one is perfect except for Jesus. And in this, we can just see in life that where the brokenness is. We can describe relationships, or we can describe the universe or the earth itself. What is broken? And so when we look at humanity and the things that we're teaching, we teach from this place that it's broken. That's how we can describe sin. Okay, so now we're at redemption. By Jesus, and only through him are we justified through his grace. And so we can take the brokenness and explain that, but how do we get out of that brokenness? How do we function in this world? We do that through redemption and his grace. So all of this comes to the end, or maybe the beginning, how it was supposed to be. And we will one day be restored into the original likeness of and how God created us, the world, the universe, and everything in it, relationships. All of this we can look forward to. That is our hope, is in the restoration of all things.
Oh my goodness, Fred, look at that. There's a little egg right there that butterfly laid. Do you see that God even has a plan for metamorphosis? That little egg was created on purpose and for purpose as part of the ecosystem that we have here in the butterfly garden. God was very intentional when he created that, just like he was very intentional when he created you. High five. Fred, you're really growing so fast. Well, in Charlotte's Web, where we've been reading, and when Templeton is at the fair, we see he really is showing his brokenness as a character because he is so self-centered and cares nothing for other people. We can see that this has led him to a place of brokenness. It's kind of like ourselves when we pursue our own selfish desires, and this can lead us into sin, and that can separate us from Christ, and we become broken too when we're in need of redemption. Well, Fred, we can see God's story of CBRR played out in all of history, but let's look at this one snapshot of U.S. history when we're considering the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln. Although a broken man, he was helping to bring restoration to a very broken people. And he worked to be able to bring the slaves to redemption, to a point of physical freedom. And it is kind of like when Christ, it's a good representation of when Christ worked to bring us spiritual freedom, because we were broken by sin but redeemed by Jesus, and those people were very broken. And though Lincoln was also a broken human, because we're all broken, God was still able to use him to bring this physical freedom freedom and this redemption to a group of people. Fred, you know, you've really grown into such a fine, upstanding young man. And while we've been in here considering absolute value of numbers and how they fit within the scope of mathematics, it also reminds me of our absolute value to God. Being created on purpose and for purpose, we have absolute value. Now, because of our brokenness, sometimes we are not able to function where He has us. But one day, just like a number has an absolute value, one day we will be restored to as God intended us to. All of creation will be restored to as God intended, and those of us who are Christ followers will be restored as well. Fred, we definitely lost the game because of that layup back there. I don't even know what that was. But we can't stay in our brokenness. We have to be able to pull this through, to be able to pull the season out. We're going to have to work towards this. Kind of like how, as humans, we're broken individuals, but then we can be restored because God can restore us. We're going to be able to pull this season out, but we can't focus on the brokenness. We're going to have to focus on what we need to do to restore where we are to where we need to be.
Well, hopefully this gave you just a brief explanation about CBRR, how to incorporate that into your classrooms creatively, or however God would have you to do that into your classroom, or in whatever role that you may have here at LCCS, as we have multiple things going on here. We just want to have that common language, that common biblical worldview in everything that we do here. So welcome to the family.